I want to get into how you specify for these road races. You mentioned the fact that and once again, let's keep context in mind in the sense that Jarret's racing at truly the national level, the premier road race level for the US, right? So that's the Pro Road Tour that we have. So these are the best road cyclists that we have in our country that race domestically. But that said, you mentioned that it's the end of the race sort of fitness that gets there. What do you do in your training that helps you be successful with that? And it may not even be the long days, or maybe it's a specific type of interval that you do or something like that. But what do you find makes you most successful at the end of those races in terms of your training?
Yeah, I think I really try and focus on, think about how my strengths play into those moves in those races, and where my weaknesses are. I think typically we touched on a little bit earlier. When I'm fresh, I'm feeling I can do a lot of power, especially like for shorter durations. My kind of power duration charts all over the place. Like I have, as we talked about, a decent threshold is pretty big, but usually my better zones are in the shorter, like 10 to 5 minute or so. And I can put out a lot of power and get away then. So it's more about unlocking that and be able to unlock that late in the races. So a lot of what I'm focusing on are the muscular endurance workouts, which is why I think the sweet spot stuff seems to really work for me and build that up to where I'm not tired at the end of races and can do it. But so that's one way I approach it, is how can I make sure that I'm fit and ready? I think another way that I do that is by maybe combining workouts with group rides, almost to like simulate some sort of race speed. So sometimes we have a Tuesday night fast ride here in Louisville. That's pretty difficult. Just like I'm sure everyone has someone who hopefully has something near them. But sometimes will go out and do some intervals to get myself tired and to simulate, some sort of like race efforts at the beginning, and then go to the group ride and then ride home. And that's usually that's like about as hard as the day gets, I think, for me. But what that does is it simulates, hey, you're getting some race speed that is close to what you would encounter in, the end of a race. And I'm having to do kind of dynamic efforts at race speed, that are, aren't as structured. And it just seems to didn't, replicate that mind state. I'd also say those are really, really hard days, and I don't do them every week, because it's almost like I do them again, and then I remember how hard that was, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that again next week. So you kind of have to use them sparingly. But I think I try to use group rides to supplement that, and also it's a great way to you get yourself out of your own head and you're chatting with people. And I think that's one of the great things about cycling, is interacting with people. So.
Yeah, that muscular endurance work is so helpful for sure. And in race scenarios, it helps a ton. I want to ask a silly question, but are there downsides to having such a high FTP? Like, have you noticed as your FTP has risen that there's complications that come with that?
Yeah, I'm sure there's more upsides than downsides for sure. But the downsides, I guess, if you want to phrase them that way, are just how much you burn during workouts. Like a 2 hour, like during a typical TrainerRoad sweet spot workout, I'm burning 1,000 kilojoules an hour, which is a lot. So, I've been trying to improve my nutrition to scale along with that, because I'm 75 kilograms, give or take, which is, in the grand scheme of things, not heavy, but in cyclist land, it's kind of heavy, especially at some of these levels. And so, you're just trying to it just takes me more energy to get around than some other people. So I need to be able to feel better. I need to be able to eat a lot, and I think that some of that comes on the bike. I'm trying to improve my nutrition and hydration and stuff on the bike, but really it is, I eat a lot. Like a shocking amount of food. And I think, because you just got to feel the work. And I think that's why, I say 75-ish kilograms. So I don't weigh myself a ton, because I think, when I start to do that and really get focused on weight, I get too much into that spiral of, I need to, maybe I won't have this, second or third plate of dinner or something. And instead, think about, I need to lose some weight. And generally that creates a downward spiral of, now I don't feel as good, I can't do my training as well. So it's really about, for me, making sure I can do my work and build power and do that way, as opposed to trying to, take the small gains to be made on the other side of the equation with weight and stuff.
So with that high FTP, do you target time trials at all? Just because even though your physiology lends toward more bursts, with that sort of an FTP, you can just carry so much speed. So do you focus on time trials at all?
Yeah, I do. I've had some decent results in time trials at races. I've gotten, I think I got third in the uphill Joe Martin time trial last time I had it was 2019, and was second at the Redlands time trial, which are both shorter, like 10 to 15 minutes. But yeah, I target time trials. I think in 2019, I was planning on really focusing on time trials, going to nationals and doing that thing. So I got a time trial bike, was really good dialing in that fit, and then got into an injury where I broke collarbone, which kind of threw a wrench in that whole thing. And I still ended up coming back and doing that nationals, amateur nationals, and did okay. But was definitely lacking some power and time on the bike. And I haven't really focused on this year because there haven't been as many time trials that have their kind of TT bike requirements. But for sure, I do focus on them. I like my favorite time trials are the ones that aren't necessarily like the pan flat, 40K ones. It's kind of the ones that maybe are a little bit more rolling and require some more pacing and feeling it out. Because I think my strengths in that lie in the ability to maybe step away from the power meter a little bit and use feel to feel out when you need to be pedaling harder or easier. Because, if you're going down a hill and doing 50K an hour, you don't really need to be pedaling much harder. Like, it's almost like you need to conserve some energy and maybe save it for an uphill. So, utilizing that energy where you can. So that's kind of my favorite time trials. And that seems where I do the best for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a tip for a lot of people is I think that I think that when you train with power, you build that intuition, like that connection with your effort. And sometimes it's very much like a ride by numbers sort of a thing. And sometimes it isn't. It really depends on how the course and how the day is going to force you to execute, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's I think the number one thing you need to do when you're training with power. It's a great tool to use. But you need to be generating that feel of like, what does this feel like? What does this effort kind of feel like? What can I sustain? And being able to know that. I think, my strategy going into a time trial or, Strava Cam or whatever is I have an idea of like, I think I can do this for this much. But in the moment, you got to be able to sort it out and feel, is this sustainable over this period of time? And do I need to be pushing harder or easier? Because time trials are all about going the fastest, right? It's not about who puts out the most power, puts out the best hour average. I think that's sometimes what we forget. It's like you want to be able to just point to that file and be like, look what I did. That was awesome. But if you're not going the fastest, it doesn't matter. So it's all about how can we go faster? Even that's, tucking into more aero position, really making yourself go quicker with less effort during certain parts of the course. But that's all fueled by, as you mentioned, when you're training, what does this zone feel like? And really being able to almost not be staring at your power meter. I think that's one of the benefits, of riding outside some. Indoor makes you, I think, super buff and great. And it's a great training tool for sure. But being able to feel out, different, changes in the road gradient, whatever, and be able to keep that effort and power steady without looking at your power meter all the time is a great tool, especially in racing and breakaways, whatever.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.